Sonic Boom made shockwaves when it was announced a few months ago, featuring shocking new character designs and some pretty interesting looking gameplay. Needless to say, I wanted to try it out for myself, and thankfully I got the chance to do just that with an early hands-on of both the Wii U and 3DS versions of the game. Now, although they have some similarities, they are actually very different experiences. So this preview will be focusing solely on the Wii U version of the game, but make sure to check out our preview of the 3DS one too, which we've linked to in the description below. Okay, so the Sonic Boom Wii U demo actually offered up 4 different levels to play on. 1 boss fight, a speed level, and 2 adventure-style levels. And those adventure levels seem to be where the bulk of the gameplay will take place, featuring a slower and more methodical pace than Sonic is usually known for. I mean, there's even a scanning device that you use by moving the gamepad around in order to look around the environment and highlight points of interest, such as trails that lead to secret collectibles. And as part of this focus on exploration, getting hit by an enemy is no longer the life or death situation it once was, as you now only drop a few rings each time instead of them all. So basically, the rings act as more of a health meter this time around. Then there's the fact that each of the 4 characters, being Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and Amy, each have their own unique abilities that allow you to explore different areas. But the exact characters available to you does change depending on the level. Sometimes you'll have access to all 4, but other times you'll have access to something less. Although since the entire game is playable in co-op, you'll always have at least 2 players as a minimum. And we saw this right away in the first level we played, called the Pit. Although you do start off in a jungle-like area with all 4 characters, it's not long before they're separated, leaving you with just Sonic and Knuckles to explore some kind of industrial mining operation. And it was here that we first saw how the characters' different abilities would lend themselves to exploring the environment, such as Sonic, who can reach secret areas using a spin dash to roll up sloped walls, while Knuckles can either burrow underground and travel a short distance before launching high into the air, or climb up specially marked wall sections. In addition, the characters will often have to work directly together, such as by using their brand new ender beams in tandem to activate switches to open passages, or using it to pull nearby platforms closer, which in this case completed the track section, allowing us to push minecarts along it. Now if you're not playing cooperatively, don't worry, as the computer will take control of any partners you're not currently controlling. Now the ender beam isn't just used for manipulating objects, as it also plays a pretty big role in combat too, allowing you to grapple away enemy shields, then using it as a lasso to snatch the enemy up and toss them in any given direction. In fact, this is an essential element when fighting the level's boss, a giant drilling machine, as you'll have to lasso nearby enemies and then toss them into the drill itself. The other adventure level that we played paired Sonic with Amy, but this time in a sprawling underwater complex, where you'll have frequent encounters with the area's guardian that you'll have to often outrun at several points in classic 3D Sonic style. During these segments, you can either use a control stick for some loose analog control, or preferably the trigger buttons that simply switch between 1 to 3 lanes. And you'll even battle him at least one point too, during which we had to lasso enemies and throw them at him and knock him off a ledge. Now, when you're not running away from the Guardian, you'll find yourself in some platform-heavy rooms, some of which offer multiple routes depending on which character you're playing as. For instance, while Sonic can cross chasms using his homing attack, Amy can instead take a different route by climbing these pink platforms in what's essentially a side-scrolling section. And she can even use her hammer to swing from certain ones too. Now, although you can use either character to get through, it's well worth your time to switch characters throughout the level, as there are plenty of secret collectibles that only one or the other can collect. Now throughout both of the adventure levels, and really any stage, it was clear that Sega's injecting a lot of personality into the experience, as the characters talk amongst each other constantly.
Rings! Nom 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 nom.
They offer up tips.
Nice! It's damaged! Keep doing it!
Compliments.
Nice job, Big Blue.
And even crack jokes. Funny ones too, no less.
Hey, there are things inside these things.
And nowhere does this come through clearer than in the boss fight stage, where your team of 4 is to take on Dr. Eggman, or more accurately, the giant robot that he commands from his Eggmobile control room in the center of it.
You did read the instructions on that thing, right?
Yes! Only had some screws left over this time.
Now while the boss fight itself is fairly conventional, Dr. Eggman's reactions to being hit really step it up a notch. For example, after the first hit, Dr. Eggman finds his Eggmobile knocked slightly off kilter, which he'll then slam back into place with his fist. After that, you'll witness him getting gradually more upset as the battle wears on, including tugging on his mustache to ridiculous cartoonish lengths. And then, after felling the robot for good, Dr. Eggman will have to actually physically bounce his inactive Eggmobile out of the robot and drag it along the ground before he can finally get it started up again. I really wish I had a video of this to show you, because it's animated hilariously. Even the battle itself, though not terribly remarkable otherwise, was fun, featuring multiple steps and several different phases. In general, you have to dodge his missile attacks before lassoing them and throwing them back at him, at which point the 4 of you can enter beam the robot to the ground, allowing you to knock some sense directly into Eggman himself. Then we had the 4th and final level, the speed level, and these levels will serve as the gateways from the hub worlds to the adventure levels themselves, with this one specifically leading to the mining operation that we first played. And as you might have guessed, these levels are really all about speed, having you race through an expansive platform-filled level. Even the ender beam gets in on the fun, acting as a zipline you can swing side to side from. This level is probably my favorite of the lot, and the one most reminiscent of what you would normally expect to find in a 3D Sonic game. Now the speed levels, like the boss ones and world hubs, always give you access to all 4 characters. And though that didn't seem to factor in too much in this one specifically, we were able to try out Tails' special abilities, which of course include hovering for a short time, shooting laser blasts, or throwing bombs that explode a few seconds later. Now levels aside, we unfortunately weren't able to see much more about the story itself during our playtime, but we were told that it revolves around a new villain called Lyric, which Dr. Eggman apparently is taking some notes from, which eventually leads up to the events of the upcoming Sonic Boom cartoon. We also learned a few more details about the game in general, including the fact that the game's difficulty actually scales dynamically depending on how well you're doing. So for example, if you end up dying a lot, your computer-controlled partner characters will actually begin to help out more, but only until you're through the section you're stuck in. Also, both the Wii U and 3DS versions feature some kind of interconnectivity, but we unfortunately don't know anything more about it. So that's most of the main details about Sonic Boom, but there's still one thing I haven't really discussed, and that's how it all plays. And well, that's still to be determined. The build I played seemed to be extremely early, suffering from heavy framerate drops throughout and odd glitches here and there, like falling through the floor when using a homing attack on an enemy, repeatedly. However, the video footage I was provided with for this preview exhibits none of these problems, so I'm hopeful they're in the process of being ironed out. The more concerning issue is the game's pace. Outside of the occasional running segment, this game is slow. I mean, I kept trying to use a trigger as a run button like a Sonic Lost World, but no dice, so the characters here just move at an uncharacteristically glacial pace. And adding to this are the frequent combat sections, which really just bog down the pace even further. At points, it almost feels like more of a brawler due to how frequent and slow the combat is. But on the other hand, the boss fight and speed levels were a lot of fun, and the personality that seems to permeate every facet of this game is a big plus. So we'll have to wait and see how everything comes together when it releases this November. Oh, and make sure to check out our preview of the 3DS version of the game too, which I enjoyed a lot. There's a link in the description below. Thanks for watching, make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more on Sonic Boom, including upcoming discussion videos very soon.
Mayday! Mayday!